Hi, this is Krista at The Secret Yarnery. Today we are making this gorgeous giant granny square blanket. In this easy-to-follow step-by-step crochet tutorial, I show you how to crochet this fabulous granny square blanket. We also finish off our blanket with a really nice last row that prevents your blanket from stretching and getting all loose. Plus, it is a bit of a rectangle, so it is a lot more practical than a regular square, and just as easy to do. I show you how to start and have a really great solid center. If English isn't your first language, you can click this gear on the video and scroll through to find your preferred dialect. And if you want to follow along with a written pattern, all of my patterns are available on my website, secretyarnery.com. And you don't have to worry about being able to read a pattern. All of my patterns are written in plain English, just like I was sitting there right beside you. I am using Savor from Ice Yarns for my giant granny square blanket. This is a 4-weight worsted acrylic. It is 100% Draylon, which means it's a premium acrylic. It is very, very soft and lovely to work with. The finished size of my blanket is 50 inches by 58 inches, or 127 centimeters by 147 centimeters. And for my size blanket, I used 6.5 of these skeins of yarn, which is 2,145 meters. I am using a 7mm crochet hook with my yarn. If you are new to crochet, you can also use stitch markers. You will also need a needle for sewing in your ends and a pair of scissors. Here are the timestamps. You can jump back in to where you left off, and let's get started. If you are intermediate, just grab one stitch marker. If you are experienced, you don't even have to worry about those stitch markers. Go ahead and grab your yarn, and you're going to start with a long enough tail, so about 12 inches of a tail. Go ahead and make a slip knot any which way you normally do. Shrink that down and pop it on to your hook. Go ahead and chain 14. 1, 2, 3, 12, 13, and 14. And now we're going to go into the third chain from our hook. So to count your chains, you can just look at these pretty little V's, these V stitches right here, these V chains, and we can just count our loops. So there is 1, here is 2, and here is number 3. We're just going to go into this chain right here. It doesn't matter if you have 1 loop on your hook or 2, because we're going to work on both sides of our chain anyway. So I'm just going to go with this 1 loop on my hook. And we're going to wrap our yarn and go into that third chain with 2 double crochets. So there is 1 and 2. Just like that, and chain 2. 1 and 2. Now into our next chain, right here, we're going to go in and make 3 double crochets into the next chain. So wrap your yarn and 3 double crochets into the next chain. There is 1, 2, and 3. And now we're going to go ahead and use one of our stitch markers, not our special one, just a regular stitch marker. And we're just going to put it into that chain 2 space just to mark our corner. So that is the first corner that we have done. Now we're going to skip 2 chains. So skipping 1 and 2, we're going to work into the third right here. So wrap your yarn and into the third chain, 3 double crochets. 1, 2, and 3. We're going to skip 2 chains again. So skipping 1 and 2, we're going to go into number 3 right here. So into the third chain, 3 double crochets. 1, 2, and 3. If I'm going too fast, you can hit that gear icon on the video and slow me down, or if I'm too slow, you can also speed me up. Now we're going to skip 2 chains again, so skipping 1 and 2, working into the 3rd right here. We're going to do 3 double crochets into that 3rd chain, 3 double crochets, 1, 2, and 3, chain 2, 1 and 2, and now into that very last chain right here, we're going to do 3 double crochets. You can bring this tail forward so we can work over it a little bit. Wrap your yarn into that last chain, 3 double crochets. 1, 2, and 3. Now into that chain 2 space, go ahead and pop in a regular stitch marker just to mark our corners. Chain 2 again, 1 and 2, and now into this next chain right where we did these other sets of 3, we're going to go into the same chain and do 3 double crochets. So we're going to mirror whatever we did on the first side of our chain. We're going to do it on the second side, working our way back. So into that same chain where we started our double crochets, we're going to do 3 double crochets. So into that same chain, there is 1, 2, and 3. And go ahead, that chain 2 space is also going to get a stitch marker. Just so when you're working around, and if you are brand new to crochet, you can recognize that this is a corner space. So each of our corner spaces now have a stitch marker in them. Looking for more left-handed crochet tutorials? There are more than 160 of my easy left-handed tutorials in this playlist right here. So now look for the next chain where we did our double crochets, and we're going to work into the very same chain doing the very same thing. So 3 double crochets into that next chain that has stitches in it. So there is 2 and 3. Now into the next chain right here, 3 double crochets, and we're also going to do 3 double crochets into that next chain. So each of the stitches, or each of the chains that has stitches, we're going to do stitches into the same chain. So 3 double crochets into that next chain that has stitches in it. So there's 2 and 3, and into the next chain that has stitches in it, 3 double crochets. 1, 2, and 3. So that finishes our first row. We just have to join. I'm going to continue with the same yarn. So this is how you join and continue. To join and continue, chain 1, and then into the top of our chain, just get yourself a little unfolded. You can see the top of our chain 3 right here. We're going to make a single crochet to join. So into the top of our chain 3, 1 single crochet to join. And that finishes round 1. To start round 2, chain 3, 1, 2, 3, turn your work. Now I like to turn my work just so I don't have a right side and a wrong side of my blanket. Both sides look great. It also stops your blanket from curling up on the edge, so I definitely prefer to turn my work, especially if I'm changing colors, because the center will slowly migrate to the side, actually where your hook is. So turning your work is a great thing. Into this same corner space, we're going to start with 2 double crochets. So wrap your yarn and 2 double crochets into that same corner space. And now we're going to grab our special stitch marker and we're going to pop it right into that space, just so we know that that is our corner space where we're going to join and step up to the next round. Now you can kind of wiggle your fingers and find these spaces in between our shells or sets of 3 double crochets. That is where we're going to be working for this round, in between all of those sets of stitches. So we're going to be starting right here, and we're going to do 3 double crochets into that space. So just into the space, 3 double crochets. 1, 2, and 3. And into the next space right over here, 3 double crochets. 1, 2, and 3. And into the next space between those stitches, 3 double crochets. 1, 2, and 3. And now we are where our stitch marker is, or in our corner, if you are familiar with crochet. So into this corner space where our stitch marker is, we are going to do a corner. So corners always get corners, and corners are always 3 double crochets, chain 2, and 3 double crochets. So here is 2 and 3. If that stitch marker gets in your way, you can pop it out. And if you need more space to get your stitches lying side by side, go ahead and grab your stitches, grab your chain, and just pull your stitches forward. That'll give you more space in that corner for your stitches to lie down nice and flat side by side. Chain 2, 1 and 2, and 3 more double crochets into that same corner space. 1, 2, and 3. So that finishes our corner. Now I'm going to pop that stitch marker up into that new chain 2 space we just made. Just like that. And that's how you can keep track of your corners if you are new to crochet. Our next corner also has a stitch marker, so we're also going to do a corner. So corners get corners. Corners, 3 double crochets, chain 2, and 3 double crochets. Now you can pause the video if I'm going too fast. There's our 3 double crochets, our chain 2, and 3 more double crochets into that same corner space. There's 1, 2, and 3. Move that stitch marker up if you are using stitch markers into the next space, and each space along the side, we're going to do 3 double crochets into each of these spaces. So into the next space, 3 double crochets. There's 2 and 3. Into the next space, 3 double crochets. 1, 2, and 3, and into the next space, 3 double crochets. 1, 2, and 3. Into the next corner, we're going to do a corner, 3 double crochets, chain 2, and 3 double crochets. So there is 2, 3, chain 2, slide those stitches back if you need some more room, and 3 double crochets into that same corner space. There's 1, 2, and 3. Go ahead and move that stitch marker up if you are using them. And now we are at our special stitch marker. That means this is the corner where we are going to join and step up. And you can see if we didn't put that stitch marker in, and if you're new to crochet, this could look just like a space along the side, and you'll be looking for your corner over here. So that's why we pop that stitch marker in. So into that space, we're going to finish up our round. So 3 double crochets, 1, 2, and 3. And now I'm going to show you how to join and end, or join and change colors. To join and change colors, we're going to end with a chain 2, 1 and 2, and we're going to slip stitch into the top of that chain to join. So into the top of that chain 3, we're going to slip stitch to join. So pop your hook in, slip stitch to join, and chain 1 to secure your yarn. Cut your yarn, leaving a long enough tail to sew in with a needle later. Pull your hook up and your yarn through and snug that down to secure. You can pop your stitch markers out, especially if you can see your corners now. It's a little bit easier to tell that that is a corner. So you can pop your 3 stitch markers out, and you can still use 1 to mark your beginning corner, but when we're changing colors, you're going to see where that is anyway. But when you need to mark your corner, just keep a stitch marker handy. So now I'm going to show you how to fix this center so you don't have these big loops, just one strand of yarn holding your blanket together. We're going to use our tail to fix that. So this is how to sew in your tail. To sew in your tail, go ahead and thread your needle. I like these sharp tip needles. They go through the fibers instead of around them, so they are really, really great. These are linked in the description box down below. And we're just going to go through. If you look at your starting chain, one side is solid, that has the 2 strands, and our starting side where we just went into that 1 loop, it's a little bit thin. Can you see there's just that 1 strand? So we want to follow that strand all the way up so that it gets strengthened on the skinny side. So there's going to be a thick side, there's going to be a skinny side. We're going to sew in our tail just underneath those loops on the skinny side, just to help strengthen up that one side of our blanket. And then grab some yarn, just kind of loop it through that chain, just like you normally would if it was a piece of, or if it was yarn going through the stitches. And then in the center fat part of the next set, see, already looks great. Grabbing a little loop from that chain, because we want to pin down that side, following our chain up and through the next set of double crochets. Back into that chain. See how that's working out? Really great. Through our chain and through the last set of 3 double crochets. There we go. You want to make sure you're not pulling it too tight. You don't want one side of your granny square thinner than the other. That's still 1 strand right up there at the top. So I'm going to go through those 3 and back down this first set on the other side. So that's why we left a little bit of a longer tail, so we don't have to struggle to get all this stitched in. And then I'm just going to go back the opposite direction, just through the fat part of all those stitches. And now I can cut my yarn. And that is how we get the center starting of our rectangle nice and even and strong and balanced out. So now we are ready to join a new color of yarn. To join a new color of yarn, flip your work. So we want to make sure we're starting into the back. We want to flip each row. So just look for these pretty V's around the edge of your work. Those nice V's. That's what you want to be looking for. That is the front, or that's the top of your work. If you are working into the back, you just see these little holes, these little dimples all the way along the top. So we want to be working into the side that has these dimples, not the side that has this pretty finished edge. So make sure you're working into the dimple side. And we want to find a corner not where we have just finished our yarn. So any other corner is fine. Just pop your hook in to that corner space. So loop of your next color on your hook, bring it through, and slip stitch with both strands to join. And drop your tail. We can hold it along the side of our work for the next 2 stitches. Chain 2, 1 and 2. Now this counts as our first double crochet, but if you join your yarn in a different way, chain 3, and into the same space, 2 double crochets. 1 and 2. Drop your tail, and now into each space along the side, each of these spaces, we're going to do 3 double crochets into each. So each of these spaces is going to get 3 double crochets. So into the first space, 3 double crochets. 1, 2, and 3. And into the next space, 3 double crochets. 1, 2, and 3. So now you can pause the video and keep working along. 3 double crochets into each space along the side, and I will meet you when we get to our corner. Wondering if anybody else is crocheting in your neighborhood? Join our Friday live chats. It's a place where crocheters and knitters from all over the world come to connect with each other and belong. And yes, you will belong too. See you Friday. When you get to your corner, you can work over your tail. We'll still have to sew it in later, but at least we can work over it for our corner stitches. So into our corner, we're going to do a corner. Corners, 3 double crochets, chain 2, and 3 double crochets. So there's 1, 2, 3. Remember, you can always slide your stitches back if you need some more room. Chain 2, 1 and 2, and 3 double crochets into that same space just to finish off our corner. There's 2, and here is 3. Now we have 1 space along the side, so 3 double crochets into the space along the side. 1, 2, and 3. So pause the video, keep working along. Corners, 3 double crochets, chain 2, 3 double crochets. Each space along the side, 3 double crochets. And I'll meet you when we get back to where we started. When you get back to where we started, 3 double crochets into that same corner space. And you can see why we don't need a stitch marker for this round. 3 double crochets into that corner space. 1, 2, and 3. And now we're going to join and continue. So to join and continue, chain 1, and we're going to do 1 single crochet right here, just into the top of that chain, into the top of our chain 3. 1 single crochet to join. Just like that. And now go ahead and mark this corner. We want to put that stitch marker in because we don't want to lose track of it. So chain 3, 1, 2, 3, and turn your work. And now you'll keep going. starting with your 2 double crochets into that same space and 3 double crochets into each space along the sides, and corners 3 double crochets, chain 2, 3 double crochets. You can always check the timestamps if you want to join and continue or you want to join and end, and our rows are going to be the same for the entire giant granny square blanket. So now you can pause the video and keep working along. If you want your blanket to be the same as mine, I started with our 2 rows of the same color, and then after that, that's the same dimension as 4 rows going on. So afterwards, I did 4 rows of each color all the way for the rest of my blanket. So that's how I did it, but of course you can change your yarn color as often as you like. So pause the video, get your giant granny square blanket as giant as you like, and I'll meet you when it is a size that you like. When your blanket is the size you want it to be, I have just joined, just with my chain 1 and single crochet. We're going to do 1 extra row. So I've done my 4 rows, and now we're just going to edge in single crochet. So join with the chain 1 and single crochet to join, and chain 1 just to get a little bit of height, and turn your work. So 1 single crochet into the space, and 1 single crochet into each of these first 2 stitches. So 1 single crochet into the first stitch and 1 single crochet into the second. So 1 single crochet and 1 single crochet, and now chain 1. Now into our next set of 3, we're going to do 1 single crochet into the first 2. So there's 1 and 2. So 1 single crochet into each of the first 2 stitches, and chain 1. Jumping over to your next set of 3, 1 single crochet into each of the first 2 stitches. So 1 single crochet, and 1 single crochet, and chain 1. Skipping to your next set of 3, 1 single crochet, 1 single crochet, and chain 1. So that keeps our stitch count the same, but it also helps our blanket not stretch out. Those chains are just a little bit smaller than a single crochet, and single crochets are a little bit smaller than a double crochet, or have less stretch. So that'll end our blanket really nice, not too tight, but not too loose. So you can pause the video and keep working along. 1 single crochet into each of the first 2 stitches, and then chain 1 and skip over to the next set of 3 all the way along the edge of your blanket, and I will meet you when we get to the first corner. When you get to your corner space, I've done my 2 single crochets and chain 1. So now into our corner space, we're going to do 1 single crochet, chain 2, 1 and 2. Rotate your work, and 1 more single crochet into that same corner. Just like that. And now starting right in our very first stitch, 1 single crochet into the first, 1 single crochet into the second, chain 1, and jump over to your next set of 3. So you can pause the video and keep working around. 1 single crochet into each of the first 2 stitches, and a chain 1. When you get back to where your stitch marker is, just pop it out. We're done with it now. And I've done my 2 single crochets and chain 1. Now we're going to work right into that corner with our 1 single crochet. And I'm going to show you how to join with an invisible join. If you wanted to do a slip stitch, then you would just do your chain 2 and slip stitch over into that very first stitch we did. So slip stitch and then chain 1 to secure your yarn. You will end up with a little bit of a bump on the one side. So I'm going to join in a different way. I'm going to show you how to do an invisible join. So this is how you join with an invisible join. Chain 2, 1 and 2. And now we're going to cut our yarn without joining. So cut your yarn, pull your hook up and your yarn through. Grab your needle and just thread it. And now we're going to look for that very first stitch. So the same spot where we would be slip stitching. Right into that first single crochet we made, 2 loops of that V on the top of our hook. Just go ahead and pop your needle in and keep an eye on where your yarn is coming from. So it's coming from this circle right here, that loop. We're going to be working right back down into the same loop. So pop your needle back down right into that same spot where the yarn came from. And now shrink it up so it looks like a regular stitch. Oops, I went through that. Just like that, and now go ahead and sew in your tail. So I hope you enjoyed that as much as I did. I'm waiting for you in that video right there, and stay hooked.